I stared at the embossed invitation in my hands, my fingers trembling slightly as I read the elegant script for the third time. You are cordially invited to the grand opening of Morrison & Associates Elite Financial Consulting. My ex-husband's name gleamed in gold lettering beneath the company title, Marcus J. Morrison, founder and CEO. The irony wasn't lost on me. 5 years ago, Marcus had thrown me out of our home with nothing but the clothes on my back and a heart shattered into a million pieces. Now, here he was, inviting me to celebrate his success. A success built on ideas I had helped cultivate during our marriage, ideas he had dismissed and ridiculed when they came from my lips. I knew exactly why I'd received this invitation. It wasn't an olive branch or a gesture of goodwill. Marcus wanted to humiliate me one last time, to parade his new life, his new wife, and his apparent success in front of the woman he'd discarded like yesterday's trash. He wanted to see me broken, struggling, defeated. What Marcus didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I had 3 very good reasons to accept this invitation. 3 reasons that would turn his moment of triumph into his worst nightmare. My triplets. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the moment my world collapsed and was simultaneously reborn. It was a Tuesday evening in March, unseasonably cold, when I came home early from my part-time job at the university library. I had been feeling unwell for weeks, nauseous, exhausted, emotional. I chalked it up to stress. My marriage to Marcus had been deteriorating for months, ever since his startup began gaining traction with investors. I walked into our modest apartment to find Marcus in our bedroom with Veronica, his business partner. The scene was cliché, almost laughably so, except there was nothing funny about the way my heart stopped beating in that moment. The betrayal wasn't just physical. Laid out on our bed were divorce papers, already signed by Marcus, along with a handwritten note that read, "You were always going to hold me back. I need someone on my level. Veronica understands ambition in a way you never could." I don't remember screaming. I don't remember crying. What I do remember is the cold, clinical way Marcus looked at me as he buttoned his shirt. "Don't make this dramatic, Claire," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. We both knew this wasn't working. "You're too simple for the life I'm building. Sign the papers and move on." Veronica, draped in our bedsheet, my bedsheet, had the audacity to smile sympathetically. "It's for the best, really. You'll find someone more suitable. Someone who appreciates a quiet, uncomplicated life." I was 28 years old. I had put my own dreams of getting a PhD in economics on hold to support Marcus through business school. I had worked 2 jobs while he networked and schmoozed investors. I had listened to his ideas for hours, helped refine his business plans, given him feedback that he later presented as his own genius insights. And now I was simple, uncomplicated, not on his level. I signed the papers that night with shaking hands. Marcus's lawyer, who had apparently been waiting in the living room, witnessed my signature and handed me a check for $5,000. "This is more than generous," Marcus said. "We weren't married long enough for you to be entitled to alimony, and you didn't contribute financially to the business. Take this as a fresh start fund and be grateful." I took the check. I took 1 suitcase of my belongings, and I walked out of that apartment into the freezing March night with nowhere to go and nothing but humiliation burning in my chest. I stayed with my college roommate Diane that night. She held me while I cried, brought me tea I couldn't drink, and whispered assurances that everything would be okay. 2 weeks later, I discovered I was pregnant. 8 weeks along, according to the doctor. And not just pregnant, carrying triplets. I sat in the clinic bathroom for an hour, staring at the ultrasound images. 3 tiny beings. 3 lives growing inside me. 3 children who would come into this world with a mother who had no home, no substantial income, and a heart still bleeding from betrayal. I could have called Marcus. The lawyer part of my brain knew I had rights, knew he would be legally obligated to provide support. But the broken part of my soul couldn't bear the thought of going back to him, of giving him any power over me or my children. I had seen the contempt in his eyes. I knew he would make my life a living hell, would use the pregnancy to further humiliate me, might even suggest I was trying to trap him, or that the children weren't his. So I made a decision that night. I would do this alone. I would build a life for my children that had nothing to do with Marcus Morrison. I would prove to myself, and eventually to them, that I wasn't simple or uncomplicated. I was a survivor. The next 5 years were the hardest and most rewarding of my life. I moved back to my hometown, a small city 3 hours from where Marcus was building his empire. My mother, who had passed away when I was in college, had left me her small house. It had been rented out, but the tenants were moving, and it became my sanctuary. I gave birth to my triplets, 2 boys and a girl, on a crisp October morning. James, Lucas, and Sophia. They were tiny, premature, and perfect. I spent weeks in the NICU, watching them fight for every breath, willing my strength into their small bodies. During those long hospital nights, I made plans. I applied to graduate programs, reaching out to my former professors. I still had the $5,000 from Marcus, blood money I had never touched. I used it as a down payment on my future. I was accepted into a doctoral program in economics with a full scholarship and a stipend. It wasn't much, but combined with assistance programs and my mother's house, it was enough. I hired a wonderful woman named Rosa to help with the triplets while I studied. She became like a grandmother to them, and they adored her. My dissertation focused on ethical startup financing and the exploitation of intellectual labor in early-stage companies, topics that hit very close to home. I poured my anger, my humiliation, and my determination into my research. I worked while my babies slept, studied while they played, and somehow managed to complete my doctorate in 4 years instead of the typical 5 or 6. During my final year of graduate school, I presented my research at a major economics conference. A woman approached me afterward, Dr. Patricia Chen, a renowned economist and venture capitalist. She had read my work and wanted to talk. That conversation changed everything. Dr. Chen was starting an ethical investment firm focused on supporting entrepreneurs who had been exploited or marginalized by traditional venture capital. She wanted me to come on board as a partner to help her build something that would disrupt the industry. I said yes without hesitation. For the past year, I had been working with Dr. Chen, building our firm, connecting with brilliant entrepreneurs who had been overlooked or stolen from. We were successful, more successful than I had dared to dream. We had capital, we had influence, and we had a mission. And then, 2 weeks ago, Marcus's invitation arrived. I did my research before accepting the invitation. I learned that Marcus's firm, while flashy and well-marketed, was struggling. His business model, the one I had helped him develop, had been poorly executed. He had made promises to investors he couldn't keep, had burned bridges with talented partners, and was hemorrhaging money trying to maintain appearances. The grand opening was a last-ditch effort to attract new investors and save his sinking ship. Veronica, now Veronica Morrison, had proven to be just as ambitious and just as ruthless as Marcus. Together, they had created a company culture of cutthroat competition and exploitation. Several former employees had reached out to our firm with stories of stolen ideas, unpaid wages, and hostile work environments. Marcus had no idea that I was now Dr. Claire Thompson. I had reclaimed my maiden name after the divorce, partner at Chen & Thompson Ethical Investments. He had no idea that I had the power to either save or destroy his company. He thought I was still the broken, simple woman he had discarded. I decided to accept his invitation, but I wouldn't be going alone. I called Dr. Chen and explained the situation. She smiled that sharp, knowing smile I had come to appreciate. "Let's make it interesting," she said. "Let's bring the triplets." The grand opening was held at the most prestigious hotel in the city, a glittering affair with champagne fountains and ice sculptures and a string quartet playing in the corner. I arrived fashionably late, dressed in a simple but elegant navy dress, my hair pulled back in a sophisticated chignon. James, Lucas, and Sophia walked beside me, dressed in adorable matching outfits. The boys in tiny suits, Sophia in a beautiful dress. They were 4 years old now, bright and curious and already showing signs of the intelligence I had worked so hard to nurture. Dr. Chen walked with us, a powerful presence in her signature red suit. I saw Marcus before he saw me. He was holding court near the bar, Veronica on his arm, both of them laughing with a group of potential investors. He looked older, more polished, but there was a desperation in his eyes that I recognized. He was drowning and trying to convince everyone he was swimming. When he finally spotted me, his face went through a remarkable series of expressions: surprise, confusion, recognition, and then something that might have been fear. I walked straight up to him, the triplets holding my hands, Dr. Chen following behind. "Hello, Marcus," I said calmly. "Thank you for the invitation. I hope you don't mind that I brought some guests." He stared at the children, clearly doing math in his head. I watched as realization dawned. "Claire," he stammered. These are your children," I finished for him. "James, Lucas, Sophia, say hello to your father." The triplets, coached beforehand, smiled politely but said nothing. They had no idea who this man was, and I preferred it that way. Veronica's face had gone pale. Several people nearby had stopped talking to listen. This was already not going according to Marcus's plan. "Why don't we speak privately?" Marcus hissed, his hand gripping my elbow. I pulled away smoothly. "I don't think so. You invited me to celebrate your success, didn't you? I'm here to do just that. And to introduce you to Dr. Patricia Chen, my business partner." Dr. Chen extended her hand, and Marcus had no choice but to shake it. I saw the moment he recognized her name. His eyes widened almost comically. "Dr. Chen," he said weakly. "It's an honor. I've followed your work for years." "Have you?" Dr. Chen said coolly. "How interesting. Because I've been following yours as well, particularly your recent difficulties." The color drained from Marcus's face. Part 6. The confession. What happened next wasn't planned, but it was perfect. One of the potential investors Marcus had been courting, a man named Robert Hastings, approached our group. He was old-school money, the kind of investor who could make or break a startup with a single decision. "Marcus," Hastings said, nodding at my ex-husband before turning to me. "I don't believe we've been introduced." "Dr. Claire Thompson," I said, shaking his hand, "partner at Chen and Thompson Ethical Investments." Hastings' eyebrows shot up. "You're Dr. Thompson? I read your dissertation on startup financing exploitation. Brilliant work, absolutely brilliant." "Thank you," I said graciously. It was inspired by personal experience. I let that hang in the air for a moment before continuing. In fact, many of the ethical violations I documented in my research were based on practices I witnessed firsthand, including the theft of intellectual property from spouses and unmarried partners who contributed to business development but received no credit or compensation. Marcus's jaw clenched. Veronica looked like she wanted to disappear. "Fascinating," Hastings said, genuinely interested. "That's exactly the kind of exploitative behavior I refuse to fund, which is why I was hesitant about Morrison and Associates. I've heard some troubling rumors about their business practices." Dr. Chen smoothly interjected. "We've heard similar concerns from several former employees. In fact, we're currently working with 3 of Marcus's former partners who claim their ideas were stolen and they were pushed out of the company without proper compensation." This was true. We had been contacted by these individuals weeks ago, before I ever received the invitation. Marcus's face was now red. "That's slander," he said through gritted teeth. "You can't prove any of that." "Actually," I said quietly, "I can. Because I was there at the beginning, Marcus. I helped you develop your entire business model. I sat up with you for countless nights, refining your pitch, solving problems, providing insights from my economics background. And when you presented those ideas to investors, you called them your own. Just like you're doing now with your former partners." The small crowd around us had grown larger. People were listening. Phones were discreetly recording. This was not the triumphant evening Marcus had envisioned. Sophia tugged on my dress. "Mama, I'm tired," she said in her sweet voice. I picked her up, settling her on my hip. "I know, baby. We won't stay much longer." The image was powerful. Me, holding my daughter, standing confidently in front of the man who had thrown me away, revealing his secrets to the very people he was trying to impress. Veronica finally found her voice. "This is ridiculous, Marcus. Don't let her ruin your night. She's clearly just bitter about the divorce." "Bitter?" I laughed, and it was genuine. "I'm grateful for the divorce, Veronica. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Being thrown away by Marcus forced me to become someone better, stronger, more successful than I ever could have been in his shadow." I looked at Marcus directly. "You told me I was simple, uncomplicated, not on your level. Do you remember that?" He said nothing, but I saw the recognition in his eyes. "Well, you were wrong. I wasn't simple. I was underestimated. And that was your loss, not mine." Robert Hastings cleared his throat. "Dr. Thompson, I'd like to schedule a meeting with you and Dr. Chen. I have several projects that might interest you." "Marcus, I'm afraid I won't be investing in your firm after all." Other potential investors in the crowd began making similar noises, pulling away from Marcus, gravitating toward Dr. Chen and me. But I wasn't done yet. "Before I go," I said, addressing the room at large, "I want to make something clear. I didn't come here tonight for revenge. I came here because I wanted Marcus to see what he threw away. Not just me, but his children." I gestured to James and Lucas, who were standing close to Dr. Chen, well-behaved and observant. "These 3 beautiful, brilliant children will grow up knowing that their father chose his ambition over them. They'll know that when given the choice between family and appearances, he chose appearances. They'll know that he invited their mother to an event specifically to humiliate her, never imagining that she might have built a life without him that was better than anything he could have given her. My voice was steady, clear, and carrying through the room. My children will also know that their mother survived, that she thrived, that she turned her pain into purpose and her humiliation into strength. They'll learn that you don't need someone else to validate your worth. You validate it yourself through your actions, your integrity, and your resilience. I turned back to Marcus one final time. You thought you were inviting a broken woman to witness your triumph. Instead, you gave a successful woman the opportunity to reveal your failures. You taught me a valuable lesson 5 years ago, Marcus, that my worth has nothing to do with your ability to recognize it. I set Sophia down and took her hand again, then collected James and Lucas. Enjoy the rest of your evening, I said. I have a feeling it won't be what you expected. As I walked toward the exit, Dr. Chen beside me, my triplets between us, I heard the murmurs starting. I heard Hastings loudly discussing his plans to meet with our firm. I heard other investors expressing concerns about Marcus's ethics. I didn't look back. Morrison & Associates closed its doors 3 months after the grand opening. Marcus's investors pulled out, his reputation destroyed by the revelations that emerged that night, and in the weeks following. Several former partners filed lawsuits that he couldn't afford to fight. I heard through the grapevine that he and Veronica separated. Apparently, when the money and status disappeared, so did their ambition. Marcus did eventually reach out about the triplets. His lawyer sent a formal letter requesting visitation rights and a paternity test. We did the test. The children were unquestionably his, and we arranged supervised visitation. Watching him fumble through his first meeting with James, Lucas, and Sophia was almost sad. He had no idea how to talk to them, how to play with them, how to be a father. He had missed their entire lives chasing success that turned out to be hollow. The triplets were polite but distant. They called him Mr. Marcus instead of Dad. That distinction was something he would have to earn, and I wasn't sure he had it in him. As for me, Chen and Thompson Ethical Investments became one of the most respected firms in our sector. We helped dozens of entrepreneurs who had been exploited or overlooked build successful ethical companies. We created a model for business that prioritized people over profits, integrity over image. I never forgot where I came from. That cold March night when I walked out with nothing. That moment in the clinic when I saw my triplets on the ultrasound. Those long nights studying while 3 babies slept. My children grew up knowing their worth. They grew up seeing their mother succeed through hard work and honesty. They grew up understanding that being thrown away by someone says everything about that person and nothing about you. Sometimes I still think about Marcus's invitation, about his plan to humiliate me one last time. I think about how spectacularly it backfired, how his moment of triumph became his downfall. But mostly, I think about how grateful I am. Grateful that he threw me away. Grateful that he forced me to become strong. Grateful for the triplets who saved me by giving me something worth fighting for. Revenge, I learned, isn't about destroying someone else. It's about building yourself into someone they can never touch. Someone whose success is the loudest possible response to their cruelty. Marcus wanted to mock me. Instead, he freed me. And that, in the end, was the greatest victory of all.